Welcome back to Made Strong. I'm Jamie Kinsey, and this is the podcast where we have honest conversations about building stronger bodies, calmer minds, and generally healthy lives. My hope is that every episode leaves you feeling encouraged, equipped, and reminded that health isn't about perfection. It's about becoming the strongest version of yourself so you can fully live the life that you've been given. And today's guest is a dear friend. She's somebody that I have admired for nearly a decade. Molly Hahn and I first met while going through a judging course for a CrossFit regional event in St. Louis. And at the time, she and her husband were preparing to open what is now known as Instinct Fitness and Wellness in Springfield, Illinois. Since then, I've watched Molly become one of the most respected women coaches that I know. She grew up in a family that owned a Gold's Gym, but what makes Molly special isn't simply her background in fitness, it's her heart for women. She has spent years helping women build confidence, navigate pregnancy, postpartum, embrace strength instead of chasing perfection, and make healthy living feel simple instead of overwhelming. She's also walked through some incredibly difficult seasons, including raising 3 kids while building a business, caring for aging parents, and recently saying goodbye to them both. I think that you'll see quickly why I wanted you guys to meet Molly. So Molly, welcome to Made Strong.
Thanks so much for having me, Jamie. I'm honored and excited to be here.
For today, we're going to make this as conversational as possible. I told Molly, but I definitely have some points I want to get across of just she's so amazing. I'm excited for you guys to hear from her. Let's start at the beginning. You got to grow up in a Gold's Gym. It had to have been an incredibly unique childhood. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was very unique. I think a lot of people think exposing your kids to something so heavily might wind up turning them away, but it actually did the opposite for me and my sisters. And it was an amazing experience. I remember going to the gym with my dad when I was 3 or 4 years old early on Saturday mornings before the sun came up. And my mom actually, she opened a gym she owned prior to Gold's Gym, which was called the Muscle Corporation. It was like a local powerlifting and bodybuilding gym. And she opened that when she was pregnant with me, which I think is so cool that I've just continued in her footsteps and kept it going with my own family.
That's so cool. It's like full circle.
Yep.
Having that upbringing, was there a moment when you realized that your calling wasn't just helping people exercise, but helping women specifically become stronger?
Yeah, I think it initially did start out with that, which was helping people learn how to exercise safely, how to involve fitness in their lifestyle. I went to school for exercise science and sports management. But once I was finished with my degree and really started to get my toes wet into the whole fitness industry, I really worked with a lot of menopausal women, and that changed my perspective on everything because they had completely different goals than people who were around my age. And, they just had this long-term goal in mind. And it really opened my eyes up to the future of my parents, the future of myself, and where I was going. And that really started to shift my mentality away from so much of a focus on the physical and a focus on really the internal fitness.
I remember that I'd watch you from afar and you were somebody who would compete. I'd see you at some competitions and your husband too. He did take fitness to a pretty competitive level, but then you became a mama. And as a mom of 3 myself, I know that motherhood changes us in ways that we really never expect. How did becoming a mom change your relationship with your body and with fitness?
Oh man, that's such a loaded question, but it's a great question because as far as the relationship with my body, in my late teens and early 20s, I really struggled with anorexia, bulimia, body dysmorphia, and finally really was at a good place where I felt like I don't know if overcome is the right word, that I had overcome it because it's always still there silently in the background. But pregnancy and postpartum will bring up all of that again because your body changes so dramatically, no matter how hard you try to not let it happen. It's just natural. And that was a good challenge for me to have to go through that 3 times over,
Mm.
getting comfortable with seeing my body change. And then the postpartum period also is a really tough time, I think, for honestly anybody, no matter what your background is. So that was a challenge, but also a gift to be able to go through that again. But then also on the other side of that, as far as health and fitness and wellness, being a mom, your focus is so much on the kids and so much less on yourself. And you need to still learn how to make yourself a priority and not let that fall behind. Because if you do, then you can't show up as well for your children. And I want to lead by example for mine. So it's not selfish to put health and fitness at the forefront and keep that as a focus while still focusing on being a good mother and being present for my kids. Time is a lot more limited, energy is a lot more limited, and then even physically things are very different after 3 pregnancies and 3 postpartum periods. So it's a quite a wild ride, but just completely amazing and blessed to be able to go through that. And I feel like it's only been able to make me able to better serve my clients.
I think it's a gift that you were rooted with that foundation of the value of fitness, not from a vanity standpoint always, but just your exposure to the ladies that you worked with who had more of a longevity perspective, that like your mindset, it sounds was so clear that you valued putting your own oxygen mask on, knowing that if you take care of yourself, you're going to be able to be a better mom and just be a better version of yourself for everybody who is relying on you. Number one, and I saw you through each pregnancy evolve, and something that really struck me, and I wish that I that you would have went before me with kids, but I went before you. But it was when we had our conversation a few months back, you had said one thing, that you gave yourself an entire year, this last baby postpartum, with no pressure to bounce back. That feels so incredibly freeing. So can you tell me why you made that decision and what did that look like?
Absolutely. Yeah, with my third, I had just learned how precious and how quickly that postpartum period goes with the baby and how vulnerable your body is physically and how vulnerable you can be mentally postpartum. And with my first, I wasn't trying to bounce back, but I just was craving feeling like myself again and feeling strong and fit again and really tried hard. It just felt like an uphill battle. And then with my second, I eased off a little bit, but still was pushing myself, but being a little smarter about it, being a little more forgiving, giving myself a little more time. And then with my third, I just really knew how fast everything goes and how some things really are out of my control, like the hormonal shifts after having a baby. And I've been breastfeeding now nonstop through all pregnancies for almost 7 years. And that has a major impact on body composition and performance. So, knowing all of those things, I said to myself, you know what, let's just take this year postpartum. I'm going to, of course, nourish my body and eat well. And I want to move consistently and get in exercise, but I'm not setting any goals as far as aesthetics go. I'm not setting any performance goals. I just want to feel healthy and focus on my baby. And I actually had the best postpartum period with her than I did with all of them. And I physically feel better as well than I did with
Mm.
my others. And I think just going slow and giving myself grace and seeing myself with more of a loving eye was huge and played such a big role in that great recovery from birth.
In this topic, if you could sit down with every new mom, can you think of, and I know this is going to be challenging, what one thing would you want her to know about postpartum recovery?
Probably that your body's going to feel like someone else's or foreign, not your own, for a long time. It could even be years. I'm over 2 years out from giving birth, and I know some women who are even farther past that. And it's like things are still not, they're never going to go back the same. You have a new body, but that doesn't mean it can't be something you're proud of and comfortable with. But you just have to accept the fact that things are going to be different. And I think that can make things easier when you take away those expectations to get back to your old body, because it may or may not happen, but just accepting that things are different and your body was your baby's home and your body might be providing nutrients still for your baby, and it's going to prioritize that over your own.
I think this conversation is so valuable because I feel like the generations that came before us, like our moms didn't have these in-depth conversations with us. So we didn't really know. We saw it was role modeled visually, but we didn't know all the details and mindsets and psychology that went behind it. I actually was thinking yesterday about that there's different tools in our tool belt that we go through as women through different seasons. And I think that would be valuable for women to understand what my body needed in my 20s is different than what my body needs today in my 40s. And for me, postpartum, I actually was already probably after my second baby. I had my last baby at 35. I can look back now and see I was already perimenopausal after having baby number two and then baby number three. And so now here I am on the other side of menopause, postmenopausal. And I just realized that in the last year with blood labs and my cycle. Anyway, different tools, different seasons of life. And we're really resilient as women. I think if you can just understand how resilient we are. And I want to get to that conversation about confidence because I can see you now because you've given yourself that grace and because you've just been consistent and fell in love with the habits and the lifestyle and being attached instead of being attached to the outcomes and the metrics. I can see your confidence and I can see that does show up over time in your body. I want to talk about a couple of the women you had shared a story about that stuck with me too. And it was about two women in your gym who recently did MRF, and you were so excited and proud of them because they posted photos of themselves in sports bras and they were a catalyst for other women to do the same.
So these two girls I just absolutely adore. They're amazing and so sweet and friendly and funny and so strong and just so fit. And they work so hard in and outside of the gym. They had sent me a selfie of them after Murph, and they were in their sports bras, and we're just so excited that they felt comfortable enough to take their shirts off to do the workout. Because if and are familiar with Murph, that tends to happen. It's such a hard workout. You just want to strip everything off. They felt comfortable enough to do so. And I was having a conversation with one of them afterwards and saying that them being confident enough to do that probably did have a snowball effect on other people. And she said, you know what, now that I think about it, after we did that, everybody else did start taking their shirts off. And I just think that's so amazing because it is contagious seeing other people be confident in their own skin and be comfortable. And they should be. They work so hard. They're such amazing athletes. And it doesn't matter what we look like. What's even cooler is what our body can do. And they're in there just crushing this workout. And so to not even worry about how they look or how other people might perceive them, and to feel confident enough to do that, but then to also inspire other people to get rid of their shame and anxiety, to go ahead and peel their layers off and feel a little bit better during the workout and a little bit cooler and not worry so much, is just made me so happy. And I know they were excited and felt excited and proud of themselves for taking that step, because it is scary and can be intimidating when you push yourself to do new things you haven't done before. And I think that is part of self-confidence, is it doesn't just come naturally to most people. You have to force it to get more comfortable with it. And you've got to take those steps. Wear the damn shorts. Quit worrying about the cellulite on your legs or whatever it might be, or the thigh gap. Just wear the shorts, be comfortably, be confident. But it's scary to do that initially. And you feel like everyone's staring at you, and in reality, they aren't. But the more that you do that, the more comfortable you get. And that, again, is contagious to other people.
And because you get to work with so many women, what do you feel like actually builds the confidence in them?
Oh, I think feeling stronger and fitter is such a game changer. Because even if you just think about walking through the grocery store, if you feel like you are strong, you can lift a lot of weight, you can run on a dime if you need to, you can have a lot of power output, you just walk differently. You walk a little taller, you're a little more proud, you're a little more alert than when you feel weak, you feel tired, you don't feel confident, and you just carry yourself differently. I really think fitness is such a big piece to just overall confidence in day-to-day life, especially for women.
Yeah. I even found in myself because, like you, I had a disordered background in college with eating and my relationship with food. And I think you and I both got exposed to the CrossFit methodology and that culture, which was really great for me because it did focus on function. And my background as an OT, that really made a whole lot of sense. That's teach people to move correct. And then when you move correct, then you can add load and intensity. And to be able to see what my body was able to start accomplishing I didn't start until my 30s. It was cool. Like I became fitter in my 30s than I ever was in my 20s, even as a collegiate athlete. And I started embracing the body that I was given. So this last week, I PR'd or whatever my hip thrust after a hip replacement, silly things like that. But it's fun to just keep finding my edges and now I'm 48 years young, right? So it's fun to keep finding my edges of possibility in this body that I have. If I focus on the function, then the other outcomes come.
I agree with everything that you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move in just real life. Social media can make healthy living look effortless, but we know rarely life ever is. You are raising a son and two daughters while running a business and coaching. How has motherhood changed you with your healthy living and having to prioritize it? Is it effortless?
That would be amazing if it was effortless, but yeah, there's a lot of effort goes into it, but that doesn't mean it can't feel easy. Once it becomes a habit, that's when it does become a little more effortless, but the reward is just so great that it's worth it to maybe make, I don't even know, sacrifice is the right word, to put in more effort. And with motherhood, I have to be even more intentional because balancing being home as much as possible for the kids, but also showing up for my business and my clients, and also showing up for myself is a huge balancing act. And I don't get to train the way that I really would like to, which would be, I would love to have an hour and a half, 4 times a week to train. But reality is it's usually about 30 to 45 minutes, 3 times a week. And then I get one day a week that I can do like maybe an hour and 15 minutes. So that's a little bit of a sacrifice. And then nutrition has just become really pared down to be as simple as possible. I don't really do many recipes right now in this stage of living. My kids are 6, 4, and 2. I've got 3 kids hanging on my legs and asking me a million questions. Right now it's roast veggies, chop up some fruits, chop up some veggies, and put some protein in the oven. And that's about as fancy as I get. But that's changed because before kids, I had the luxury of more time. I had the luxury of cooking by myself, and just even financially being able to support myself with a lot of extras that now I put towards the kids. And I love doing that, but it changes definitely with motherhood, but it doesn't mean you can't still get the results that you want.
Yeah. I feel like that stage is like that charcuterie lifestyle. Because I'm on the other end of this somewhat, but what do you hope that your kids remember watching you model about health?
It just makes me think of my parents immediately because they did such a good job modeling for me. If I can follow in their footsteps, that would be such a win for me. And I remember my parents always prioritizing eating fruits and vegetables, drinking a lot of water, keeping processed foods to a minimum. And they didn't really force that on us. That was just how we lived and how they ate. That to me was just second nature. And I'm so grateful for that because a lot of people that I work with didn't grow up that way and they're having to learn these new
Mhm.
habits as adults. And that can be really difficult. And they also modeled that exercise was normal. They included it at least 5 out of 7 days a week, if not more than that. And they, again, never forced that really on us. They would include us in it and let us be around them when they were exercising. They modeled that for us, that it was normal. That was part of the lifestyle and that they prioritized that for themselves. But we were still around. It wasn't like they just left us to go do that. So I think I'm trying to do that with my kids. Let them see me eating healthy, expose them to healthy foods. I work out around them all of the time and then they want to join in on their own. I never have forced them to. They always want to join in. And that just makes me so happy. I just want them to know that it's part of a normal, healthy life to eat well and move.
I have so many memories going through my brain and my own story as you're sharing. We have a little bit opposite ends of the spectrum where you kind of just grew up with that was normal. I grew up just sick. I grew up that sick was normal, medicine was normal, doctors were normal, and no knowledge of any relationship between nutrition and fitness or movement with any of that. I found that. And so that is what I've implemented with my family and my husband as well. And so today mine are 19, 17, and then 14. And it's cool because as you talked about, it's normalizing. I remember again going to a friend's house in high school or grade school, and I remember thinking their dinners were weird compared to what my family ate. So there is this normalization that happens. I actually am experiencing the complete opposite. So as my oldest is going to be a sophomore in college, I actually was teaching him this week to make sourdough. He's going to have his own kitchen. He wants to be able to make his own. So he did that. My daughter, she'll be a senior in high school. We're looking at colleges. And it's phenomenal to me. She's, Mom, you know how I eat. You know the kind of stores I'm going to need and wherever it is that I go to school. We looked at the school in Iowa and she was like, Mom, Iowa has the highest cancer rates. I can't go to school in Iowa because there's such bad chemicals. My kids are so aware. So I didn't just do it. We always educated. We're also talking to them and having the conversations of this is why we're doing what we're doing. We're not trying to just be perfect or we're not just I don't know what other reason you do it, but we were trying to teach them the importance of that your body, the food is fuel and all the benefits of movement. It's cool too, because my daughter differently driven than the boys. This year, she's really finding her love of going to the gym and being part of a group fitness class. And that's the first time. And I'm so proud of her and it wasn't forced. We just want you to find your thing. I don't care what it is. Movement is important. So now she has. It's just really cool because I think your kids will be very similar. My kids actually pride themselves on the amount of fast food restaurants they've never been to and never intend to go to. We have alternatives. We're not perfect. My kids don't drink soda as I drank soda growing up, but they drink Olipop. There's healthier alternatives and it's worth the investment. It just is long term in their health. Anyway, switching gears a little bit, we touched on your parents at the beginning. And before we sat down today, life handed you an incredibly difficult season just in the last couple of weeks with the passing of your dad. And I just want to thank you for being here in such a raw time. I know that's not easy.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really tough. My dad passed away within days of the 1 year anniversary of my mom passing away. So it's been probably the hardest year and a half of my life. And it's a really difficult season of my life to be going through this too with little kids and a business. But they were just such great role models for me. I just feel more and more blessed every day that I have them as parents.
And now I've not walked through that. So I'm curious, has that experience changed or shifted at all your perspective on health?
Oh man, it honestly rocked my world initially. My mom, about a year and a half ago, she got a diagnosis for cancer. And that was just mind blowing to me because my mom was one of the healthiest people that I knew. And she was like you, like at the forefront of all anti-aging, health forward approaches. She was on top of everything and knew about everything and was very holistic in everything that she did and ate so well, took care of herself. You knew my mom. She was jacked and super fit and beautiful and looked 15 years younger than all of her peers. But that was just mind blowing for me. And honestly, the first few days, I was almost angry and felt like, what am I doing putting so much focus in health and fitness and wellness when my mom, who is a shining example of this, is still getting diagnosed with this cancer that was even past stage 4 and had less than 6 months to live. But then I got out of that state and realized, you know what, if she hadn't been taking care of herself the way that she had been, this may have happened 10 years sooner. She may have not have been as functional through the battle that she did put up. So I think it was hugely beneficial to her, even though she got dealt a really crappy hand of cards. And then the same with my dad. He had a stroke and fell, had a few TIAs that also had caused some falls. And same story with him. All of his peers that would fall would end up with a shattered hip. And my dad was a weightlifter his whole life. He was a collegiate football player, and he was the same interest as my mom, just doing everything he could to stay as healthy and as physically and mentally young as possible. And that really helped him out and was giving him a lot of advantages through these hard times. He had these pretty insane falls that he went through, and he, out of all of it, got a tiny hairline fracture on his tibia. And we all think that was pre-existing because he'd had pain for months and months prior to this fall. No major injuries from these falls, and had just so much gusto trying to recover and rehab. I just know seeing both of them go through these traumatic events, if they didn't have the muscle mass that they had, if they didn't have the mental clarity that they had, they would have had a lot harder time going through these challenges than they did. And it was hard, but it would have been even more severe. It's just a good reminder for me of the big picture and the long-term effects and why we're really doing this. And I want to be able to, if I trip and fall and I'm 85, get up and walk away from it and not have to go to the hospital with multiple broken bones and lose my independence for the rest of my life. And unfortunately, that is what happens. And I know you probably see that being an OT all the time, these falls with older people. It can literally end everything for them. And it's so sad when they're otherwise healthy. It just leads to so many more complications. It's been a really tough thing to see, but being in the field that I'm in has only reinforced why I am so passionate about what I'm doing.
When we chatted before, something came up. I'm going to bring it back around. But as you were talking, when we talk about health, we talk about nutrition, we talk about movement, but there's actually even more pieces to the puzzle, right? There's even a bigger comprehensive picture, the quality of sleep, and are you outside getting sunlight? Are you more of an indoor person? And one thing that you and I talked about was stress and how stress can be. I've often said, I feel like people far underestimate the damaging effects of stress. Knowing your parents walk, yeah, thank goodness they did all the things that they did. But have you learned anything for yourself that you're hopeful that you're going to implement and then pass along to your kids that maybe your parents just didn't know that in their season of life around stress and stress management?
Oh, for sure. My dad was definitely a workaholic, and that was stressful for him. He ran multiple businesses at the same time, and that was exhausting for him. And my mom went through some really tough times as well, as did my dad with their businesses. And I don't think either of them, and my mom even admitted this to us, she was good in the later years about learning from these things and communicating them with us, that there just wasn't the self-care there to offset the stress that happened. And stress literally causes hormonal shifts that make us less healthy and impact us in so many different ways. And it makes being healthy become so much more of an uphill battle, not only because of hormonal changes, but when you're stressed, like you said, it's harder to sleep, and less sleep impacts your mental clarity. It impacts your ability to recover from workouts, to burn fat, to put on muscle, to regulate your hormones. And then when you're in this lack of sleep state, your mood is down. And so it makes it harder to make better decisions with your nutrition and be as motivated for fitness. It's just this huge snowball effect. So stress management is so important and such a cornerstone of health, fitness, and wellness, because if that's not there, everything else can completely fall apart. And it's so much harder to manage everything when you're so stressed.
And we're not going to make it through this life without going through stress. It's part of the process. It's part of why I made this podcast, because I want people to, you can be resilient. You can choose to be a victim and stay stuck in it, or you can choose to find the tools and resources to help get you through, which is why I bring amazing people on, Molly. I would love for anybody who's listening who is caring for aging parents or grieving someone they love. Is there anything that would have been helpful? What could somebody have told you as you were going through that could have helped you out just a little bit? Is there anything that comes to mind?
I think, especially as far as grieving goes, giving yourself grace and understanding that grief looks different for everyone. Some people can be really out about it and really emotional, and some people aren't. Some people, it comes and goes in waves and ebbs and flows. And I think just taking expectations off of yourself and allowing yourself to, if you have a numb day, be okay with that. If you're having an emotional day, be okay with that. If things trigger you, that's okay. If you need to just hole up for a week or two, that's okay too. And just giving yourself grace and compassion, and really just being there for yourself is really important, and not beating yourself up with these unrealistic expectations.
Have you had a support network? Who do you feel has supported you most in this season?
Yeah, my husband has been amazing. He's gone through some pretty significant losses in his life, and he's just so understanding and compassionate, and just will do anything to help me out at the drop of a hat. And then I have two amazing sisters, and we've always been like best friends. And so to have them so close during these hard times has just been invaluable. They've definitely been there for me, and it makes things a lot easier when you don't feel so alone.
Final question for today. If every woman listening today walked away and remembered just one thing from our conversation, what would you want it to be?
Probably that you have it in you to be that person that you want to be, and just know that it's in there, and know that you can get it to come out. It's not buried, it's not gone. That dream you have of yourself, it's a real dream. It's there, that you can do it.
I love that. And finally, when you hear the words made strong, what does it mean to you?
I love that, because I think maybe hearing what you were saying about it and what I think of it are different, but I think that's cool. And I think that it's a hopeful thing, that you can be strong, even if you don't feel like you came from a strong background or a strong foundation, you can make yourself strong. You can be made strong. It's an active thing. It's a verb. You can build yourself up, and you don't have to have any groundwork laid, that you can start from zero and you can still get there and still be made strong.
One of the reasons that I've admired you for so many years is because you remind women that strength isn't something that's only for the elite athletes or people who have it figured out, right? It's something that people can decide to make one decision, one workout, one meal, and one act of grace at a time. And we've talked today about motherhood, confidence, strength, grief, and what it means to care for ourselves through all the seasons of life. So, what I keep coming back to is that health isn't about earning your worth. It's about stewarding your body that you've been given so that you have the strength to love the people well, so that you can pursue your purpose and you can continue to say yes to the life that is right in front of you. Wherever you guys are listening today, I don't want you to think that you have to change everything overnight. And I know you heard that in what Molly shared. So just start with one walk, with one weight, with one serving of plants, with going to bed a little earlier, and just maybe taking a breath today and just giving yourself a little bit more grace. Those small choices may not feel significant today, but over time, they're going to become the foundation of a strong life. Molly, thank you for reminding us what it looks like. Before we go, can you, because when we talk about stress management and some of these other things, Molly is a wealth of knowledge. Can you let the people know where they can follow and learn from you? And maybe even if they're in your area, where they could actually maybe see you in real life?
Yeah, for sure. So my husband and I own Instinct Fitness and Wellness, and that's in Springfield, Illinois. You can directly contact me through our website, which is instinctfitnessandwellness.com. I'm on Instagram. We have our business on there, which is at Instinct Fitness and Wellness, or my personal page is Moldoll, MOLLDOLL_52. I'm easily accessible, so reach out for sure. I'd love to connect with anybody that came through this podcast.
Thank you guys all for listening today. If this conversation encouraged you, I would love for you to share it with a friend. It is one of the best ways to help more women discover these kind of conversations. Until next time, keep becoming made strong.